Lesson 12. Relationships and bonds, how to build them, how to maintain them, how not to isolate yourself. Relationships are one of the most important foundations of recovery, and at the same time one of the most fragile areas in the life of a person living with schizophrenia. The illness often brings unrest, withdrawal, fatigue, uncertainty, and sometimes a feeling of being misunderstood into the mind. After episodes that are intense and disrupt everyday life, many people feel fear about contact with others, even with their closest ones. A mind that has been overloaded naturally seeks silence and solitude. Being alone feels seemingly safe because nothing requires effort. But long-term isolation weakens you, takes away your sense of meaning, and slowly closes the door to the world. That is why rebuilding relationships is part of therapy, not an extra addition to it. It is not a matter of personality, courage, or just going out and meeting people. It is a tool that strengthens your psyche. Contact with another human being regulates emotions, reduces tension, helps organize your thoughts, and restores a sense of being rooted in reality. In schizophrenia, difficulties in relationships have very concrete causes. Negative symptoms can weaken initiative and the desire to talk, making meetings require effort that a healthy person performs automatically. Medication can slow you down, cause drowsiness or stiffness of facial expressions, which makes you feel unsure in face-to-face contact. Social anxiety may intensify after psychotic episodes, because the mind remembers the distress and tries to protect itself from another overload. On top of that comes a subtle fear of judgment. What will people think? Will they notice that I'm different? Will they understand? All of this is natural. It is not a trait of your character, it is a protective mechanism of a tired nervous system. And yet relationships are what can restore balance. They give you a sense of being part of something bigger than your own thoughts. They give structure to the day. They give meaning. Many patients say that loneliness took them out of life more than the illness itself. That is why therapy so strongly emphasizes the need to rebuild bonds. The first step is accepting that relationships do not have to be intense, deep, or ideal. Simple contact is enough, a short conversation with someone at home, asking a neighbor about the weather, exchanging a couple of sentences in a shop. Such small interactions work like a warm-up for the mind, gently and slowly bringing movement back into it, as if stretching tense muscles of awareness. Small contacts teach you that the world is not a threat, that people are predictable, that a conversation has a beginning and an end, and that nothing terrible happens in it. Maintaining family bonds also requires delicacy. After illness, some close ones may be more cautious and others overly protective. Everyone carries their own fear. That is why it is worth seeking conversations that are calm, short, and honest. You do not have to tell everything. You can share only as much as is comfortable for you. You can talk about everyday activities, plans for the coming days, or simple observations. Naturalness is more important than depth. Your loved ones are learning you again, and you are learning them. It is a process that takes time, and that is completely normal. When you build new relationships or return to old ones, it helps to remember that a conversation is not an exam. You do not have to be interesting, funny, or energetic. It is enough that you are present. You can ask simple questions. How was your day? What's new with you? How are you feeling? You can listen even if from time to time your mind drifts off. That is natural in schizophrenia. You can repeat simple phrases if you lose the thread. In social skills training, this is exactly what is taught, that a conversation is a rhythmic movement of two people, not a test you must pass. If fear of judgment appears, you can treat it as an echo of past experiences that no longer have power over your life. Rejection can be painful, but it rarely is truly personal. People drift away because they are busy, tired, or preoccupied. Not because there is something wrong with you. From a Buddhist perspective, relationships are not meant to define our worth, but to meet others with openness and gentleness. Without expectations. Without the desire to control. Without trying to fit an image you think you should fulfill. Being with people is possible even when you feel unsure inside. You can allow yourself breaks, to go outside for a moment, sit in silence, rest from conversation. That is not running away, it is a way of regulating your emotions. What matters is that after a short break you come back, even just for a little while. This shows your mind that you can be in relationships, even if only in small doses. To avoid isolating yourself, it is helpful to introduce small rituals, a short walk with someone, a phone call once a week, a note about whom you want to contact. You can create a list of 3 people you want to maintain contact with. You can set small social goals, smile at the cashier, say good morning, send a short message. These small acts build bridges that over time turn into stable bonds. The most important thing in this lesson is understanding that relationships do not require perfection. It is enough to be close enough. A little time and a willingness to be alongside another human being is enough. Schizophrenia can weaken your self-confidence, but it does not take away your ability for friendship, love, and closeness. People can sense your sincerity, gentleness, and presence. And those are the foundations of every good relationship. Relationships are like a garden. You do not need to water them with liters of water every day. A few drops regularly are enough. And after some time, they bloom again. Examples of relationships, their problems, and possible solutions. 1. Relationship with a parent. In the relationship with a parent, the most common problem is the clash of 2 worlds, the world of the person living with the illness, who needs peace, gentleness, and space, and the world of the parent, who is guided by care but often also by anxiety. The parent asks many questions, regularly inquires about your well-being, tries to advise or control. The person who is ill may experience this as pressure, intrusion into privacy, or even suspicion. Then the relationship becomes tense, the parent feels helpless, and the ill person feels trapped. The relationship with a parent in schizophrenia is often one of the hardest, even though in intention it is usually the warmest. A parent watching a suffering child experiences a kind of pain that cannot be compared to anything else. This mixture of fear, care, and helplessness makes the parent often react too intensely, too emotionally, or too controlling. Not because they want to harm you, but because they are afraid of losing their child, even for a moment. A parent can be blinded by love. They may not see the boundaries you need, may ask too often, worry excessively, push you into conversations you do not have the strength for, or try to fix you with methods that are ineffective or inappropriate. Such a parent does not realize that their activity can work opposite to what they intend, increasing tension, overloading your psyche, and even intensifying symptoms. This is not bad will. It is a desperate attempt to grasp something that cannot be held by the hand, your peace. From your perspective, a parent's reactions can be irritating, intrusive, or inadequate to the situation. It is normal that you feel tired of their concern, that their questions annoy you, that you would like more silence and less control. Yet it is worth remembering that the parent is acting from a place of fear, not from a place of knowledge. They do not understand what is happening in your mind. They only see the effects: sadness, withdrawal, anxiety, sleeplessness, and feel helpless. A parent's helplessness is often stronger than their ability to think logically. That is why their reactions may be chaotic, nervous, pushy, and sometimes directly at odds with your needs. In such situations, it is helpful to take their emotionality into account. Their excessive actions are not an assessment of you or a sign that you are doing something wrong. They are a natural reaction of someone who loves and is afraid. If you have the strength, you can calmly communicate your boundaries. I understand that you're worried. But when you ask me 10 times, I feel overwhelmed. Please, let's talk about it once a day. Sometimes such a sentence changes more than a long conversation. In many families, it is also helpful to involve a therapist or to offer parents psychoeducation. When a parent starts to understand the mechanisms of the illness, they calm down. When they know what helps and what harms, they stop acting chaotically. The relationship then becomes lighter, more equal, and less marked by fear. A separate part of this book has been created for parents, 20 lessons for the caregiver. It will help them understand the nuances of schizophrenia and teach them appropriate reactions in line with your needs. This reduces the frequency and intensity of possible conflicts and your discomfort. Remember that a parent usually wants what is best for you, even if the way they show it is far from ideal. Understanding their motivation, even if it is sometimes difficult, opens space for compassion and makes it easier to rebuild a bond that can become one of the most important sources of your strength. A good solution is to introduce clear boundaries for communication, agreeing that conversations about your health take place at specific times of the day, that questions will not be about everything, but only about what is most important. The parent can learn to listen attentively without giving immediate advice. You can learn to communicate your needs gently. Mom, I need a bit of quiet right now. We'll talk later. Such a simple agreement reduces tension on both sides. From a Buddhist perspective, the relationship with a parent is a space of compassion, not of expectations. A parent does not have to know everything, and a child does not have to fulfill anyone's image. Presence is enough. 2. Relationship with a spouse or partner. In a marriage or partnership, tension often comes from a difference in pace. The healthy partner functions faster, wants to act, talk, plan, while the person living with the illness needs more time, more silence, and fewer stimuli. This makes the partner feel rejected and the ill person feel overwhelmed. Distance is born in this gap. The relationship with a partner can be one of the most difficult and most sensitive areas of life when schizophrenia appears. The partner sees everything from very close, your fatigue, anxiety, withdrawal, change of pace, need for quiet and breaks. They see it, but do not always understand. For a healthy person, these changes are sudden, unpredictable, and often contrary to their experience. The partner's mind tries to make sense of this, and sometimes does so in a way that is hurtful, even if unintended. It happens that the partner subconsciously denies the illness, because it is easier for them to think that the problem is a lack of will, inconsistency, or laziness than to accept the difficult truth that something is happening which they themselves cannot fix or control. This denial does not come from bad intentions. It is a defense mechanism of someone who fears that they are losing the person they love, that the world they knew has fallen apart before their eyes. For you, such reactions can be painful. You may feel judged, misunderstood, or treated unfairly. You may feel that the partner expects energy you don't have or a pace you cannot maintain. These tensions are among the most common experiences of couples in which one person lives with schizophrenia. Even very loving relationships can be put to a serious test at such times, and those that were previously built on weaker foundations sometimes do not survive. In therapeutic manuals, this is described as a natural consequence of a change in dynamics, not as the fault of either side. Yet when there is love and a willingness to co-create a safe space within the relationship, the bond can not only survive but even grow stronger. This requires understanding that the illness changes many things: the rhythm of the day, your needs, your energy, and even the way your body and mind can participate in closeness. A partner who begins to understand this learns to be patient with silence, to slow down the pace of conversation, and to accept breaks that are not rejection, but a way of coping with overload. Sometimes the opposite happens: tension rises on both sides. The partner does not know how to react, so they try to rescue the situation through excessive control, questions, or pressure to act. You in turn feel even more exhausted and misunderstood, which leads to conflict. In such moments, it helps to remember that your partner also has their own limits and fears. They too need a sense of safety, and the illness of a loved one takes it away as effectively as from anyone else. The most effective methods of helping couples in crisis are surprisingly simple: talking more slowly than usual, without trying to convince the other person, speaking about what you feel, not about what someone did, taking a short break when emotions begin to rise, and returning to the conversation when the mind is calm again. Instead of arguing for your own rightness, it can help to say, "What I'm feeling now is not a reaction to you, it's because my mind is tired." Such a sentence can stop an avalanche of misunderstandings. Couples therapy also teaches you to treat everyday situations as small exercises in closeness. You don't need long conversations or intensive activities. 10 minutes of tea together, a short walk, watching something together, or preparing a single meal is enough. These small moments give your partner the feeling of being part of your life, and at the same time do not overload you with too many stimuli. It is also important to know that not every partner can find their footing in the new reality right away. Sometimes they need their own education, sessions with a therapist, support, and even their own breaks. Both sides learn to live with the illness at different speeds. If the partner makes mistakes, it usually comes not from bad intentions but from lack of experience. It happens that the partner themselves falls into anxiety, tension, and overload, and then their reactions can be as inadequate as yours in times of crisis. There are also situations in which the relationship breaks down, and although this is painful, it does not say anything about your worth or your ability to love. Sometimes it is the relationship, not the person, that is not strong enough to carry the weight of the illness. Statistics leave no doubt. Schizophrenia often reveals whether the relationship was based on honesty and mutual care or on routine. Sometimes your partner expects support from you that you are currently unable to give. You would like to return to your previous responsibilities, your role at home, your shared energy, but your body and mind do not always allow it. Schizophrenia changes the pace of life, weakens you, burdens you, and makes what once was easy now sometimes impossible. This is okay. The lack of strength is not a choice or neglect, it is a matter of health. It should not be a source of guilt or self-accusation. A partner who expects full performance from a person living with schizophrenia does not understand the nature of the illness. In a relationship, it is essential that you can feel you have the right to rest, to being less active, to saying, "I can't manage this." The illness does not take away your value or make you a lesser person. It is also worth remembering that a relationship that cannot carry a period of illness is not a relationship worth rescuing at all costs. Each partner, by entering into a relationship, makes an informal promise to be there not only in times of well-being, but also in times of shortage, weakness, and illness. This is the foundation of real closeness. If the partner cannot uphold this commitment, if they blame you for difficulties you do not control, if they leave when you most need understanding, then the breakup of such a relationship is not your failure. It is their decision and their responsibility. You have the right to live in a relationship in which you are loved also when your strength is less and the illness brings an element of disability. Schizophrenia does not take away your right to love, it only reveals who is capable of offering their partner real love rather than self-interested affection. Despite a breakup that at first may feel like a drama, many people living with the illness later create relationships that are deeper, more spiritual, and more stable than ever before, because they have greater self-awareness and a clearer sense of their own needs. Relationships that survive share one common feature: both sides learn to tell the truth gently. They learn not to punish with silence, not to blame, not to demand the impossible. They learn that love is not about fixing the other person, but about being able to be with them at a pace that sometimes moves slower and sometimes faster. It is precisely this gentleness, this slowing down, and this readiness to pause between sentences that make partnership a space of safety rather than yet another source of stress. Buddhism in partnership suggests one thing: instead of demanding that the other person be as they were in the past, try to see them as they are now, with gentleness and openness. And accept that fact with humility as a karmic consequence. 3. Relationship with a child. The relationship with a child is one of the most demanding when schizophrenia appears in the family. A child does not understand the illness. They do not know the subtleties of symptoms, cannot sense the difference between mental fatigue and physical pain, cannot distinguish anxiety from silence. They only see that their parent's behavior has changed: less energy, shorter conversations, sudden withdrawal, difficulty engaging in play or household tasks. For the child, this is puzzling and worrying. For the parent, it is painful. A parent living with schizophrenia often feels guilty that they cannot give the child the availability, carefree presence, or stability they would like to. When symptoms intensify, ordinary everyday activities take effort, and play can become a task beyond your strength. It is natural that in such moments you feel grief about yourself, a sense of failure, and sometimes fear that the child will stop feeling loved. Yet it is important to remember something fundamental: children do not need perfection. They only need presence, the presence you truly have, even if it is shorter, calmer, or slower than before. Children intuitively sense a parent's emotions, but they do not know how to name them. When the parent is quiet or tired, the child may think they did something wrong or that the parent is rejecting them. That is why it is so important to keep communication simple and gentle. You do not have to explain the illness. The child does not have to know the word schizophrenia. A simple sentence is enough: Dad is tired today and needs to rest, but he loves you very much. Such a sentence protects the child from creating false ideas and builds a bridge of safety between their world and yours. The hardest challenge is often the difference in energy. Children live in full movement, spontaneity, and curiosity. A parent in remission or during treatment often functions better in short bursts, in calm activities, and in a predictable rhythm. So instead of trying to match the child's level in play, it is wiser to suggest an activity that is within your reach and still satisfying for the child. It can be reading together for a few minutes, looking at pictures, building a single tower of blocks, a very short walk, washing fruit together, or talking about what the child did during the day. Short but attentive presence is far more valuable for a child than long but forced participation. Many relational problems arise when the child does not understand changes in the parent's behavior. Children are afraid when they see sadness, sudden silence, or withdrawal. They may ask, "Why don't you want to play with me? Why aren't you saying anything? Are you mad at me?" These questions are not reproach, they are a plea for a sense of safety. You can respond gently, "I'm not angry with you. I love you. My mind just needs a bit of rest." Such an answer has a soothing effect. It is also good to remember that children of different ages react differently. Young children do not understand abstract concepts. They react to your tone of voice and to the attention you give them. Older children may ask more difficult questions, while teenagers may react with rebellion, irritation, or a sense of shame. Each of these reactions is natural and comes from the stage of development, not from a lack of love. A parent living with the illness often fears that they are not fulfilling their role. Yet therapeutic manuals emphasize one point: a child does not need a perfect parent, they need a good enough parent. One who cares about themselves. One who can rest when they need to. One who speaks the truth in a calm and accessible way. One who is there, even when in silence. Children love deeply, regardless of perfection. There are also more concrete challenges: depression, slowing that leads to longer naps, irritability from sensory overload, difficulty concentrating during play. In such situations, rituals that weave the day together can be very helpful. A child feels safer when they know what to expect. You can decide, every day after dinner we read one short book, or every Wednesday we go for a walk together. Short, repetitive rituals act like an anchor for the child and for the parent. Sometimes, however, the parent is simply unable to care for the child alone. Not because of a lack of love, but because of health limitations. In these moments, support from a partner, family, caregivers, or close friends is invaluable. This is not a failure, it is maturity. The child gains stability, and the parent can care for themselves in order to be more present later. In family psychology, people often say that a child reads not only words but above all the emotional atmosphere of the home. If you take care of your own peace, sleep, rest, and balance, the child also begins to live in a more ordered space. Your stability is one of the most important gifts you can give them, and it does not require superhuman effort. It requires understanding that caring for yourself is also caring for your child. In the relationship with a child, the most important thing is that you are there. You do not have to be a hero. You do not have to be infallible. A child needs your love, and that does not depend on your energy or intensity, only on your sincerity. You can be a wise, warm, loving parent even when your strength is limited. The illness does not take away your ability to love. It only teaches a type of love that is quieter, more attentive, and more genuine than ever before. Sometimes, however, despite all your efforts, family life begins to exceed your current abilities. The child needs attention, your partner expects cooperation, and you yourself are trying to maintain balance in a world that at times becomes too intense. In such moments, it is worth remembering that you do not have to cope alone. Contact with a family psychologist can be a huge support, not only for you, but for the whole family. The psychologist will help organize daily responsibilities, relieve you where possible, and suggest how to talk with your loved ones so that you don't feel overwhelmed. This is not a sign of weakness or a lack of parenting competence. It is wisdom. A family that uses a specialist's support functions more calmly, and the child receives more harmony and safety than the parent could provide in solitary struggle. Working with a family psychologist is like adding another pair of hands and another heart to the care for your loved ones. For relationship with siblings. A relationship with siblings is unique. You are not friends by choice, but people who grew up side by side, sharing childhood, conflicts, secrets, and memories. When schizophrenia appears in your life, your siblings often react surprisingly strongly, because in their memory you still exist as the person from before the illness. Siblings do not always know how to separate what used to be from what is happening now. This often creates tension and misunderstandings. Siblings may not understand your need for quiet, for peace, or for limiting contacts. They may interpret your withdrawal as coldness, ignoring them, or even indifference. They do not see what is happening in your mind, they only see that your behavior has changed. Sometimes they may try to stir you up, motivate you, or get you back on track, without realizing that such actions do not help and actually add stress. Many conflicts between siblings come not from a lack of love, but from a lack of knowledge. At the same time, it is often siblings who become one of the most important pillars of support if the relationship makes it through the initial stage of misunderstanding. It is worth remembering that your siblings have no prior experience with mental illness. They react as they can. Sometimes too sharply, sometimes naively, sometimes with unhelpful advice, and sometimes with silence because they don't know what to say. When they see your suffering, they also feel helpless and often a hidden fear. Fear for you, fear of the future, fear of not being able to help. In relationships with siblings, gentleness and simple words help a lot. You can say, "When I'm quiet, it's because my mind needs rest, not because I'm angry with you." Such a sentence can change the whole atmosphere. Siblings usually respond better when they get clear information instead of having to guess what you feel. If there were conflicts between you in the past, the illness can bring them back to the surface. Rebuilding the relationship may be difficult because old pain mixes with new challenges. This makes it all the more worthwhile to focus on small steps, just as with other bonds: a short phone call, a walk together, a few minutes talking about neutral topics. You do not have to tell them about your treatment or explain every symptom. Ordinary contact is enough, as if you were rebuilding a bridge, brick by brick. Siblings often do not know how to support you. You can make it easier for them by saying directly what helps and what does not. "It helps me when you ask calmly. I need time to answer. You don't have to cheer me up, it's enough that you're here." Such messages ease the burden on both you and them. In some families, the opposite happens. Siblings withdraw from the relationship because they fear the illness or do not understand it. This is painful, but it is also described in the literature and does not reflect your worth. They are the ones who need time, education, or distance to cope with their own fear. You can give them that space without feeling guilty. Often they come back when the emotions settle and they see that schizophrenia has not taken away your personality. In the relationship with siblings, one element is especially important: remembering that what connects you is your shared story, not obligation. If you are able to rebuild closeness, that bond can become exceptionally strong, full of trust, delicacy, and mutual support. If you are not, you have the right to accept that without blaming yourself. The illness does not destroy relationships by itself. It simply reveals which of them need time and which were not strong enough to withstand a more difficult period. 5. Relationships with friends. After a psychotic episode, some friends may distance themselves, usually not because they do not want the relationship, but because they do not know how to maintain it now. Many people living with schizophrenia interpret this as rejection, while in fact it is often a misunderstanding. Relationships with friends are special because these are the people we choose and who choose us. Unlike parents or siblings, friends have no obligation to stay with us in hard times. This is why illness often painfully tests those bonds. Some friends disappear when episodes begin, others withdraw gradually, still others stay but do not know how to behave. This can be deeply hurtful and may give rise to an inner question: was there something wrong with me? It is worth knowing that most such situations do not come from bad intentions, but from human helplessness and fear of what we do not understand. Many people have never encountered schizophrenia and do not know what it really is. They do not understand your fatigue, shorter focus, need for silence, or sudden changes of mood. They only see the effects, withdrawal, silence, absence, and sometimes take it personally, thinking they have lost their importance in your life. Such interpretations are common among people who lack therapeutic knowledge. A friend does not walk away because you changed. They walk away because they don't understand how to be with you in a new situation. And yet many friends come back, sometimes after weeks, sometimes after months. They only need a signal that contact is welcome. A short sentence is enough, "Let me know if you'd like to meet," or a message simply saying, "How are you?" You do not have to explain the illness or justify the changes. The most important thing in friendship is that you are still yourself, even if your pace of life is different. Such a return is easier when you talk about everyday things, the weather, films, books, daily little things. Friends appreciate your presence, not explanations. If a friend does ask about the illness, you can answer as you feel comfortable. You don't have to go into detail. You can simply say, "Sometimes my mind is more tired, so I go quiet." It's nothing personal. Such words often lift a burden your friend had been carrying in silence. Sometimes friends react with excessive concern. They ask too often, become over-involved, want to know everything. This happens because they are afraid for you. In such moments you can gently set boundaries. "I appreciate your care, but I'd rather talk about my health less often. I'll let you know when I need support." Friends usually learn this over time. Some friends do leave, sometimes without a word. That hurts, but it does not mean that something is wrong with you. It more likely shows that the bond was weaker, more superficial, or based on circumstances that have now changed. Illness does not destroy true friendships, it only reveals which ones were true. Those that survive become deeper, calmer, and more honest. A friend who returns to you after an episode is someone who truly cares. Patience and small steps help rebuild these relationships. You can start with a message, a short meeting, or a phone call once every few weeks. You do not have to be at full strength for friendship to make sense. Friends do not need your intensity, they need your honesty. Sometimes 10 minutes of conversation is enough to build something new. You do not have to pretend that nothing has changed. True friendship can adjust to a new life rhythm. Mindfulness in relationships also helps, observing how you feel in someone's company. If a person's presence calms you, gives you strength, or simply makes the day lighter, that is a bond worth nurturing. If someone's fear, haste, or pressure overloads you, you have the right to limit contact in order to care for yourself. Friendship should not be a duty. It should be a space in which both sides breathe freely. Your companion should be chosen as part of keeping hygiene of your surroundings. You have no obligation to spend time with people who are hostile to you, just as you do not have to drink polluted water. Choose your friends so that they support your well-being. Relationships with others are also greatly supported by participation in group therapy or support groups for people with mental illness. This is one of the safest and most supportive environments you can find. In such groups, people do not judge one another. They are connected by shared experience, similar fears, fatigue, difficulties, and hopes. Therapeutic manuals emphasize that a group provides something no individual therapy can, a sense that you are not alone, that others go through very similar things, that your reactions are normal in the context of the illness. In support groups, new acquaintances form, sometimes friendships that are deep and free from pressure to be someone else. Talking with people who truly understand is a relief. It restores a sense of community, lifts part of the shame from your shoulders, builds trust, and allows you to regain confidence that you can be close to people without pretending. Many people say it was the group that became their place of returning to relationships, the first step on the road out of isolation. Buddhist mindfulness suggests that friendship is not about constant meetings, but about the direction of the heart. 6. Relationships with acquaintances and more distant contacts. Acquaintances are people who are not close friends but still exist in your life: neighbors, former co-workers, people you see regularly in shops, those you recognize from your area or from shared activities. These types of relationships are very important, although often undervalued. In schizophrenia therapy manuals, they are called low-risk social contacts because they do not require much emotional energy yet help maintain social skills and a sense of being anchored in the world. Acquaintances do not expect deep conversations or intense presence. A simple good morning, a couple of sentences about the weather, or brief interest in how they are doing is enough. These small interactions work like muscles. They keep your ability to connect intact and uphold the structure of your day. If you isolate yourself from people for a long time, your mind begins to avoid social situations almost automatically, as if it forgets that the world is in fact mostly safe. Short conversations with acquaintances help break that pattern and remind you that other people are not a threat. Relationships with acquaintances are especially valuable because they allow you to practice social skills in a natural way. There is no pressure of time, strong emotions, or expectations. You can practice briefly looking someone in the eyes, smiling, using a friendly tone of voice, asking simple questions. Social skills training encourages using such situations as daily micro-practices that build self-confidence. Acquaintances are not analyzing your facial expression or wondering why you speak more slowly. They are busy with their own lives. This gives you space to practice without fear of judgment. Sometimes, however, you may feel discomfort or sensory overload from noise, commotion, or unpredictable conversations. In such moments, you can allow yourself a shorter contact. You do not have to explain or justify anything. "I have a nice day," said with a light smile, is enough. You decide the limits of your contact, not others. Contact with strangers, the cashier, bus driver, clerk, or person standing in line, also plays a surprisingly large role in therapy. These are interactions that carry no emotional expectations, no risk of rejection, and no need for deep engagement. For many people living with schizophrenia, such contacts become the first step back into the world of people after periods of withdrawal. Strangers do not judge you because they do not know you. They do not analyze your tone of voice, do not think about your facial expressions, do not ponder your history. In contacts with them, you can be completely yourself, without pressure, without pretending, without trying to fit the image you carry in your head. A short exchange of words, a smile, or paying for your shopping is enough. These tiny gestures act like a hocus-pocus of grounding. They remind you that you are part of the world and that the world responds to you in a stable, calm, and predictable way. Many professional manuals emphasize that talking to a stranger is one of the most effective tools for building confidence after psychotic episodes. When the mind regains balance, such interactions become proof that you can function socially, even if your mind now needs gentler handling. Strangers are also a good soft landing because you can control how long the contact lasts. If you feel overloaded, you can end the interaction naturally with a gesture, a brief word, or the completion of a transaction. You are not responsible for the other person's emotions. You are free to enter and exit contact whenever you choose. It is also worth remembering that such interactions help distinguish fact from interpretation. If you sometimes feel afraid that someone is looking at me strangely, contact with strangers quickly teaches you that this is only a thought, because the other person's reaction is neutral, polite, ordinary. That is exactly why short conversations with strangers are often included in rehabilitation programs. Relationships with strangers can be surprisingly soothing. People pass you without expectations, without a shared past, without emotional obligations. They can provide exactly what may sometimes be lacking in your family or among close ones: simple, pure normality. You can rest in that. Summary: relationships are one of the most delicate areas in the life of a person living with schizophrenia, and at the same time one of the most important for their recovery. The illness makes the world louder than usual and the mind more susceptible to fatigue, which can lead to withdrawal, isolation, and uncertainty. In such moments, it is easy to believe that social interactions are too difficult, too demanding, too risky. Yet it is precisely in these moments that relationships become one of the foundations of returning to balance. Each type of bond brings its own challenges. A parent may be overvigilant, a partner too lost, a child very sensitive, siblings impatient, and friends overly cautious. Still, all these relationships share one thing: the desire for closeness, even if hidden behind misunderstanding, fear, or clumsy expressions of care. Small steps help renew these bonds: a calm conversation, a short meeting, a moment of shared presence. A relationship does not have to be perfect to be healing. It only has to be real. It is also worth remembering that not all bonds will survive the test of illness, and that is okay. The illness reveals what in relationships was authentic and what was an illusion. It is a natural selection that, although painful, leaves around you people who are capable of genuine, patient, and conscious support. Such bonds later become some of the most reliable points of support on your road to recovery. Supportive environments such as support groups and group therapy are also very helpful. There you can meet people with similar experiences. In such spaces, no one has to pretend anything, and conversation becomes simple and human. Many people rediscover there that the world is not closed and that contact with others can bring relief. In relationships, it is not perfection that matters, but gentleness. The ability to say, "Today I can do less, but I want to be close." Allowing yourself to rest. Accepting support. being mindful of your own boundaries and mindful of others' emotions. All these elements create bridges that over time lead from isolation to community. Relationships are not a luxury. They are part of recovery. And even if at the beginning they seem difficult, step by step they once again become a source of strength, peace, and the reassuring sense that you are not walking this path alone.